Thank you so much for joining us here on this Friday. I'm Wendy Redmond.
Hi, everybody. I am Austin Reed. First at 6 o'clock, a 14-year-old Kennewick High School student who was arrested and charged with attempted murder in a threat against Kamiakin High School has been found guilty.
Mason Ashby was also found guilty of 11 counts of unlawful gun possession and threats to bomb or injure property. The guilty verdict came after just 4 days of a bench trial in juvenile court.
This is the case we covered back in September. 2 students from Florida saw the threats on TikTok and notified the Kennewick Police Department, which set off an investigation, and the arrest was made. Sentencing for Ashby will be set at a later date.
Now to an Apple Valley News Now exclusive. As communities across Washington fight against proposed sex offender reentry homes, one sheriff says early action and community pressure can make a difference.
Thurston County Sheriff tells us he helped stop a less restrictive alternative, or LRA, home from opening in Tenino. And as Kennewick fights a similar proposal, his approach could offer a roadmap.
Yeah, so I had just gotten into office when this kind of hit me out of left field. I was not anticipating it. And there was a lot of learning to do about what LRAs are, how they function, how they've evolved over time. Ultimately, as you probably already know, this started with a court case where the state of Washington then had to comply with the court case.
When Thurston County learned a less restrictive alternative home could land in the small town of Tenino back in January of 2023, Sheriff Derek Sanders says they did not wait to act.
This has been a subject that has been a hot topic.
Sanders tells me his office immediately started working the issue, coordinating with state officials, reviewing placement requirements, and making sure neighbors knew what was happening. He also showed up in person, attending meetings and advocating for public safety concerns.
So it's a lot of money that the state will pay if someone can meet the criteria to house these sexual offenders. So if you were running a business, would you buy a 2-bedroom flat in downtown Olympia, where all the services are, for $1 million and run it out of that? Or would you go to the middle of nowhere where there's 5 bedrooms on 5 acres of land where you could then put 5 of these individuals into one house at $30,000 a person? It becomes a business decision at that point in time.
The sheriff says that pressure from law enforcement and the community ultimately helped stop the proposed home from moving forward in Tenino. He calls it proof that early involvement does matter.
And I mean, citizens in the county got really creative. One of them built a playground right next to the property and said, well, there's kids here, and your own rules say that you can't have, within X amount of feet. That didn't really work, but it sent a message. And that playground's still there today, mind you. From the county perspective, they went and found that there were areas of the residents that were not up to building code.
Now, more than 150 miles away, that same debate is playing out right here in Kennewick, where residents are fighting a registered level 3 and higher sex offender group home at 8th and Edison.
It's important for people to understand this is not just your run-of-the-mill sex offender, someone who got drunk and stumbled onto school property and peed on the football field and has an exposure case against them, right? I mean, these are your level 3 and higher sexually violent predators. These are people who have committed severe acts of sexual offenses. A lot of them involve minors. A lot of them involve people with disabilities. Obviously most of them are men. And so this is not something where, we're trying to reintegrate the low-level sex offender.
Sanders says communities facing these proposals should stay engaged and work closely with law enforcement and lawmakers. It's like a science experiment.
Kind of feels like it. Kind of feels like a public safety science experiment. And we've done a lot of them lately in Washington. We did it with car chases. We've done it with reasonable suspicion Terry stop detainments. It's like there's no research to back any of it up. It's kind of done on like an emotional whim. And then when it backfires terribly and people literally die over it, it's like, whoopsie. I did reach out to Angela Ronaldo, the CEO of Supreme Living LLC. That's the company who is set to open the home in Tenino. I asked her for a comment,
She told me, quote, "I have nothing to say about it," end quote.